News 5 in high definition starts right now.
He said something just bad happened. And then we heard the fire rescue, and then we heard a bunch of ambulances, and then we saw a big cloud of smoke.
Explosions at Eastman Chemical Company Rock Kingsport, sending smoke high into the air and causing the company to send out an alert, asking residents nearby to stay in shelter and stay in place.
The explosion happened late in the morning. Some heard the explosions as far away as 20 miles away. We have received a flood of pictures into the station from you, our viewers, showing the rising smoke from the plant. And we've learned from Eastman that the cause was what they say is a process upset in the coal gasification area of the plant.
Now, so far, the company has released a statement saying that no one was injured and they're following all safety protocols.
At this time, all vehicle and pedestrian traffic is prohibited within a half-mile radius of the incident. But we just learned about 30 minutes ago that all roads are now back open around Eastman, with the exception of Jared Drive. That road will remain closed for now.
Now, we have live team coverage this evening to bring you the latest information from the scene. Ellie Romano is talking with neighbors who were under a shelter-in-place order.
But we begin with News 5's Samantha Zarek, who has been at that plant all day covering this story from the beginning. So, Sam, what have you learned at this point?
Julie, PJ, earlier this morning, we heard 2 to 3 loud explosions coming from the Eastman Chemical Plant from this general area behind me here. Now, Eastman says they experienced what they call a process upset in their coal gasification area, which caused those loud explosions. Immediately after the explosion, thick black and brown smoke was in the air. You can obviously see now it has since cleared. Eastman says no one was injured, but we are continuing to receive reports through social media that the explosion was felt up to 20 miles away in places like Surgoinsville and off Yuma Road in Scott County, Virginia. Now, the roads that were shut down within a half-mile of the incident are beginning to reopen, except for Jared Drive, which still remains shut down at this time. TDEC says they are monitoring the situation, and they will work with local agencies as they begin to ask for help. We're expecting a press conference by Eastman at 5:30. For now, I'm Samantha Zarek, getting the facts right in Kingsport. Back to you.
All right, Samantha, thank you very much.
Now, it wasn't just people there at the plant that felt this. We found out that people were able to feel and hear this explosion even from a distance. News
5's Ellie Romano caught up with some residents and businesses that are in that area to find out how they were reeling from those explosions.
I spoke to know someone who works at Eastman, whether a family member or a close friend, and they just wanted to know if they were okay after the explosions. Residents who live only a few blocks away from where the blast went off say it sounded like a bomb or a huge gun firing. They were also extremely worried about the air quality. Businesses less than half a mile away turned their air conditioning units off as a precaution.
We just heard a loud boom, and actually the building shook, so we kind of looked around to try to figure out what was going on. And then about a minute later is when the second explosion hit, and that's when we realized that it was actually coming from the Eastman, and we looked out the window and saw the black smoke.
Employees at that drugstore initially thought a car ran into their building before they realized it was explosions. We'll hear more from witnesses coming up at News 5 at 6. For now, getting the facts right in Kingsport, Ellie Romano, News 5 WCYB.
All right, Ellie, thank you so much.
Now, it turns out this explosion could have been worse depending on the weather conditions.
Meteorologists Dave Dirks and Chris Michaels joining us now with more on that angle. Gentlemen?
Hey guys, yeah, a lot of times when we see a clear, cool morning like this morning, you'll get what occurs a temperature inversion, and by later in the day that disappears. And Chris, talk a little bit about how temperature inversion can affect how pollutants and atmospheric gases are dispersed.
Yeah, so you know, if this had happened about 3 hours earlier, the smoke would have been dispersed a little bit more. So let's go down to the site here on Eastman using our map. So there's the fire just near the coal gasification plant. Now, temperatures at the surface at the time of the explosion were 60 to 65 degrees Fahrenheit, 4,000 feet above. They were at 57. So the smoke plume was able to rise and then kind of thin out. However, if this happened at 7 o'clock in the morning, the temperature would have been 44 at the surface, 57, 4,000 feet up. And so what would have happened is that inversion would have knocked the air down and kept it very close to the surface and in a wider area.
All right, thanks, Chris. Here's a live look now from our Bays Mountain Camp looking down on Eastman. Temperatures actually very warm this afternoon. 82 degrees currently, but once again, due to the dry air and the clear skies and light winds, we're going to be dropping down into the mid-40s for lows. So, Chris, another cool night tonight and another summer-like day tomorrow, but we do need the rainfall. And coming up in just a few minutes, my Storm Track 5 7-day forecast does have some good news regarding that, so stay tuned for that.
Dave, Chris, thank you so much. Now, we also want to share with you a statement released by the Tennessee Department of Environment and Conservation. They say they have been notified of the incident at Eastman, and they are closely monitoring the situation, and they're working with local agencies to provide technical expertise as needed.
And talk about a weird coincidence. This is actually the 57th anniversary to the day of the 1960 explosion that happened at Eastman Chemical Company. Now, according to the archives of the city of Kingsport, that day the explosion was centered in the aniline division of the plant. The blast was felt all around the city. Even buildings downtown, which were over a mile away, were damaged. 16 people were killed as a result of that explosion, and more than 200 were injured. You're looking at file film from 1960.
Now, fortunately, no one was injured in today's incident.
Exactly. Now, we'll continue to monitor this situation. Our coverage will continue throughout the newscast.
And Eastman announcing they're going to hold a press conference around 5:30 this evening. We're going to take you live to that event as it happens, so stay right here with News 5 for the very latest information, both on air and on our website, WCYB.com.
And now turning to the other news of the day, Johnson City Police investigating a bank robbery at this hour.
Lieutenant Kevin Peters says few details are being released right now, but here's what we know. It happened at the Tri-City Community Bank in Boones Creek just before 3 o'clock this afternoon. He says two suspects entered the bank with outfits on that were covering up their identities. Police say they left with an undisclosed amount of cash. Police notified the FBI, and they are now in charge of the investigation. We'll bring you more details on this story as soon as we learn them. The Virginia woman accused of dressing up like a clown and murdering a Florida woman 27 years ago will face the death penalty. 54-year-old Sheila Keene Warren was arrested last week in Virginia and returned to Florida Tuesday night. Today, the Palm Beach County State Attorney filed a notice to seek the death penalty against Sheila Keene Warren. Investigators say in May of 1990, she went to the house of Marlene Warren in Florida dressed as a clown, and she's then accused of shooting the victim in the face. At the time, Sheila Keene was the mistress of the victim's husband, Michael Warren. Sheila then married Michael Warren in 2002.
New details this evening on a Johnson City man who's charged for owning a cache of illegal weapons. We found out from the Sheriff's Department he was already under investigation for sending threatening letters to judges. According to the police report, 43-year-old Scott Allen Edmiston began talking about the Department of Children's Services after his arrest, saying they would get the justice that was coming. Edmiston was living with his mother. Investigators found weapons in her house, along with wiring and devices that were meant to look like explosives. Sheriff Ed Graybill says the suspect was using them to keep people away from his guns.
When the bomb squad finally got in there, there was nothing to any of it. And that cabinet that he had wired up like that is where we found the extra gun parts and a lot of ammunition and other stuff.
Graybill also says that Edmiston's mother had no knowledge of what he was doing. Edmiston due back in court October the 11th.
Police in Marion, Virginia have now filed charges in connection with a shooting that happened on September 22nd on Cemetery Street. According to the investigation, shots had been fired and one person had been injured. Officers later found a suspect suffering from 2 gunshot wounds. That suspect was taken to the hospital. Investigators say the resident, William Sheets, encountered 2 men in his home. A struggle ensued, which extended to the outside of the home and eventually to a vehicle. Sheets fired several shots, resulting in William Jones's suffering 2 gunshot wounds. Jones and Lon Jeffrey Mulkey were each charged with burglary and attempted petty larceny. Both are being held without bond in the Southwest Virginia Regional Jail in Abingdon. William Sheets has been charged with unlawful wounding and firing into an occupied vehicle. Right now, he is out on bond.
The Johnson City school system is looking for feedback from the community as administrators work toward a plan to build 2 middle schools. The plan was approved during a September 7th meeting. The purpose of the community feedback is to discuss the feasibility of transitioning to 2 middle schools, which would encompass grades 5 through 8. There will be 10 total presentations. There will also be some time for questions. The next one will take place October the 12th at 6 p.m. at Mountain View. For a list of times and locations for the rest of the meetings, we've placed those on our website, WCYB.com.
And Chief Meteorologist Dave Dirks will join us right after the break with your Storm Track 5 forecast.
And then the latest on the shooting investigation, including a first look at new images from inside that shooter's hotel room in Las Vegas.
Plus, a local woman is sharing what she saw and heard when that shooting happened in Las Vegas. That's still ahead on News 5. Stay with us.
You're watching Julie Newman, PJ Johnson, and Chief Meteorologist Dave Dirks with your Storm Track 5 forecast. This is News 5 at 5 in high definition. Accurate, reliable, getting the facts right. The Storm Track 5 weather team, alerting you to severe weather danger.
Another sunny and warm afternoon in the Tri-Cities, dropping down into the low to mid-40s this morning, but back up into the 80s this afternoon. Bone dry weather continues. In fact, our streak without any measurable rain at the airport, 20 days now. We're getting close now to the top 5, which include 28, 25, and 23 days respectively as far as dry weather is concerned. So if we do not see measurable rain through Saturday, it seems plausible we will be in the top 5 driest spells ever in the Tri-Cities at 23. I think that streak will end, though, by Sunday. So here's what we're tracking as we go through the next several days. Kind of status quo through Saturday. Maybe a stray shower later in the afternoon on Saturday, but this is going to mean pleasant evenings and comfortable, cool overnight lows in the 40s, as well as temperature swings that will be as high as 40 degrees. That's what we saw today, a 40-degree temperature swing from morning to afternoon. But we're keeping an eye on Tropical Depression 16 now in the Western Caribbean that shows signs of developing into a tropical storm, perhaps as early as late tonight, maybe even becoming a Category 1 hurricane before all is said and done by this weekend. But as far as your bus stop forecast tomorrow morning is concerned, look for a cool start. Looks like temperatures will start out in the mid-40s to low 50s, but much like today, looks like we'll see lots of sunshine. Here's our GO 16 high-res visible satellite imagery. This has to get your attention if you're looking for some rain, and there is some rain under those clouds. A cold front that is going to get close to us but not quite get here. Track it into the future with me. It is going to settle across the Ohio Valley through tomorrow, stall out, and then most likely start to return back toward the north as a warm front as we go into Friday, meaning we're going to see clear skies right on through Friday with the cool nights and the warm days. Now, winds are going to be light and variable overnight tonight into tomorrow morning. That might be conducive to some patchy valley fog, especially near some of those area rivers and streams, but also notice a few high-level clouds, maybe a couple of fair-weather cumulus clouds developing tomorrow afternoon, but it will be another rain-free day across the Tri-Cities as we head through your Thursday afternoon. Mostly sunny skies will be expected. Now, temperature-wise, we're going to be topping out, it looks like, in the low 80s across much of the region. Higher elevations will be in the mid to upper 70s, and it looks like that trend will continue across Southwest Virginia, ranging from 76 in Norton to about 82 in Mountain City. Let's check out your Storm Track 5 7-day forecast, and it does include quiet, pleasant, late summer-like weather as we go through Saturday. Daytime highs low to mid 80s, overnight lows in the upper 40s to low 50s. But also notice that we're going to keep an eye on that tropical storm that may develop later tonight, and then that could race up toward the Gulf Coast by Sunday, and cold front may linger behind it through Tuesday. So I think we got a shot at some decent rain chances on Sunday into Monday. Some of those rains could be on the heavy side, maybe adding up to an inch or two, potentially more across some of the Blue Ridge Mountain areas of North Carolina. That's early. I'll call it speculation, but it's encouraging that we could see some decent rain from that system.
Grass everywhere is going. Thank you, Dave.
Yes, it is indeed.
All right, thanks, buddy.
Coming up next, we'll have the latest in the investigation of the deadly mass shooting in Las Vegas as President Trump visits patients.
And we're going to talk with a local woman who was actually on the Vegas Strip when the shooting occurred. That's next, right here on News 5.
Help News 5 get the facts right. If you see news happening, contact News 5 by phone or email.
President Donald Trump spending the day in Las Vegas meeting with patients, medical professionals, and first responders just days after the deadliest mass shooting in U.S. history.
Meanwhile, the girlfriend of the gunman behind this massacre in Las Vegas is back in the U.S. and she's being interviewed by authorities. They're hoping that she can provide new insight into a possible motive for the attack. Sarah Duluff has the story from Las Vegas.
President Trump on the ground in Las Vegas.
You showed the world, and the world is watching, and you showed what professionalism is all about.
meeting with first responders, medical workers, and victims of Sunday's massacre.
The message that I have is we have a great country, and we are there for you, and they're there for us.
Overnight, a key figure in uncovering the gunman's motive returned to the U.S. Stephen Paddock's girlfriend, Mary Lou Danley, who police call a person of interest, had been in the Philippines since before the shooting. And now a chilling look inside Stephen Paddock's hotel room in photos obtained by the Daily Mail. Guns in chairs, spent ammo littering the floor. Authorities say they are investigating how the images were leaked to several news outlets. This as they released officer body camera video.
Hey, they're shooting right at us, guys. Everybody stay down.
A 3-minute sampling of the chaos as officers helped concert goers to safety.
Go, go, go. That way, that way, that way, that way.
And a hail of bullets rained down, killing 58. The death toll recently revised by the coroner. Among them, a 28-year-old Navy veteran who served in Afghanistan and was in Las Vegas with his mother.
He went to combat and came back without being injured, and he goes to a concert and dies.
A 34-year-old beloved mother of 3, a wrestling coach celebrating his wedding anniversary. Kristen Babbitt was shot in the back but survived.
I want to thank all the people who risked their lives to stick around or run toward it, because I don't know if I'd be here today if I didn't have the help.
Gratitude for those who risked everything to help strangers amid the deadliest mass shooting in modern U.S. history. In Las Vegas, Sarah Dolph, NBC News.
More than 4 dozen people are still in critical condition right now. Meanwhile, singer Jason Aldean, who was performing when that shooting started, has postponed his weekend concerts out of respect for the victims.
An Abingdon woman is safely back home after being in Las Vegas at the time of the massacre. Debbie Creasy had just finished dinner. She was about a mile downtown on the Strip from where that shooting happened. Her group tried to leave the area. That's when security told her they were on lockdown because of an active shooter. Creasy says she didn't know how many shooters there were, and she started to look for a place to hide, just in case the gunman came into where she was. Creasy says what happened in Vegas is just now starting to hit her.
I'm really sad for the people that did go to the festival. I'm really sad for the families that lost people. Makes me sad for the injured people.
Coming up at 6, we'll find out how Creasy narrowly avoided being at that concert the night of the shooting.
Democrats are asking if now is not the time to talk gun control, then when is? California Democratic Senator Dianne Feinstein introducing a bill today that would ban the manufacture and sale of bump stocks. Those are devices which can turn a semi-automatic weapon into a fully automatic one, similar to the one the Las Vegas gunman used. Feinstein says she's reaching out to Republicans and the president for support.
You have to say enough is enough. You have to say that there is no reason to make a semi-automatic assault weapon into a fully automatic battlefield weapon.
The senator says her daughter was supposed to be at that music festival when everyone was attacked, but decided at the last minute not to go.
Public appearances at the scene of a tragedy are sometimes a difficult challenge for a president, and with possible repercussions. As News 5's chief political correspondent Scott Thuman shows us, for President Trump, it's 2 tests now in just 2 days.
I can hear you, the rest of the world hears you, and the people who knocked these buildings down will hear all of us soon.
There are moments that help define a presidency, how a commander-in-chief becomes consoler-in-chief, the hugs and words of understanding designed to help the country heal. For President Trump, the tragedies have come quickly.
It's a very, very sad day for me, personally.
There are moments when supporters say he's risen to the occasion, and when critics claim he's tossed sensitivity aside.
You can never, ever compare Donald Trump to those other presidents. There is nothing about Donald Trump that's like those other presidents.
Political professor Gary Nordlinger says their capacity to comfort often defines how presidents are perceived.
You know, I think of Ronald Reagan, for example, when the barracks in Lebanon were blown up by terrorists. George H.W. Bush just oozed human decency in such a way that he was a great comforter. Bill Clinton really does feel people's pain.
And polls can reflect it. George W. Bush had approval ratings hovering around 50, but after giving that bullhorn speech, saw his surge almost immediately to 90.
It's got to seem genuine. If you're a comforter-in-chief, you have to be a genuine comforter-in-chief. You know, it's not like you're hugging somebody and looking at your wristwatch.
And for Trump, they are tests he likely, unfortunately, will face again. In Washington, I'm Scott Thuman.
Up next, Secretary Tillerson holds a news conference to address rumors of him leaving the administration. We'll find out what he has to say.
And a hearing to decide whether another high-ranking official will face charges in the Flint water crisis. We'll have those details when we come back.
Secretary of State Rex Tillerson says he's not going anywhere. Tillerson delivered a statement today saying that he has never considered resigning from his post. Now, these comments come after sources say Tillerson had threatened to quit over the summer amid growing tensions with the White House after Tillerson reportedly referred to the president as a moron following a July meeting at the Pentagon. Now, speaking at the State Department, Tillerson reaffirmed his commitment to President Trump and downplayed any notion of a feud.
There's never been a consideration in my mind to leave. I serve at the appointment of the president, and I'm here for as long as the president feels I can be useful to achieving his objectives.
Tillerson declined to address whether he called President Trump a moron, only saying that he doesn't deal with that kind of petty nonsense.
A court hearing was held in Michigan today to determine whether or not the Health and Human Services Director should face charges for the Flint water crisis. Former Health Director Nick Lyon is facing involuntary manslaughter charges and misconduct in office. The charges come after a man died of congestive heart failure during the water crisis in 2015. He's also facing blame for not alerting the public in a timely fashion about a Legionnaire's outbreak, a type of pneumonia that's spread by bacteria. Experts have blamed the outbreak on Flint's failure to treat its water to reduce corrosion. It's unclear when the judge will make a decision.
Keep in mind our coverage of the Eastman explosion in Kingsport will continue after the break.
News 5's Rebecca Pepin will be here with the very latest, including more live reports from the scene. Stay with us.